Stephnie's an oncology nurse and has a very unique story to share with us. So I'd like to welcome Stephanie Smith. Good afternoon, everybody, and I just wanted to thank you all for making it out here. I know there's people from all over the country. Australia is here with us, so thank you very much for inviting me. John for reaching out to me as well and allowing me to be a part of this presentation today. So I know there's a lot of crazy letters up there. Long story short, my journey through cancer brought me now to being an oncology nurse. I work day in and day out with patients that travel a similar path as me, and I now promote health and well-being and just drive off of my patients now to continue to educate and bring light to stomach cancer along the way. So, everybody else had a medical disclosure. Mine's a little comical. I've attended enough of these professional conferences to say I have no endorsements from anybody. I'm just here to have a good time and hopefully have a good time with you guys as well and bring hope to those that are in need. So this was me, life before diagnosis. I was 20 years old, living the dream, just moved out on my own, that bachelorette life. I had just gotten what I thought was the man of my dreams. And started an awesome career, had a 9-to-5, was making pretty good money for a 20-year-old who wasn't college prepared, and recently had found out that I got admitted into a kinesiology program at University of Maryland, where I was going to go to do physical therapy. So a lot of good things were going on for me, and I was invincible. Looking 21, it was a couple months away, and then things changed. I was working at my office job and found that I kept having these chronic stomach pains. My primary care physician initially just told me oh, maybe you just have some ulcers, stress, the normal stress of school and work and everything else. Until one day happened at work, I actually dropped to my knees in pain, was crying, just couldn't bear anything that was going on. So I was then taken back to my primary care doctor. My office manager took me at the time. And she just immediately sent me for imaging. There was something wrong. There was this resonating pain starting from the bottom of my gut all the way up. And so one test led to another, and soon enough I found out that I had what they thought was presumably a lymphoma, because at 20 years old, there's no way that this tumor they found in my stomach was actually going to be stomach cancer. So then the diagnosis came. I was diagnosed with poorly differentiated adenocarcinoma, signet cell specifically, of the stomach, which was absolutely unheard of for someone of my age. Again, I was only 20 years old, turning 21 in a couple of months. And I'll never forget the phone call, because the woman who did my endoscopy had told me the last time she had seen this, it was a patient who was 27 and he did not live to be 30. Right in that phone call. So needless to say, in that moment, I made up my mind that I was going to prove her wrong, and I was not going to have my parents bury their child. It just was not. Made up my mind. So this was me, day one of my chemo, taking a bite out of it, So the game plan with talking with, when I finally saw an oncologist that I liked, we were going to do the magic, follow the magic trial. So I was going to do chemotherapy, followed up by a gastrectomy, and then following that with more chemotherapy, and then depending on that, whether or not I needed radiation following that. So this was my journey through the first couple of weeks. This was me actually on my 21st birthday. What's actually cut out is I was rocking my 5FU pump. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but it's, you're hooked up to your port, you got your nice little, I had it in a Coach bag, strapped around, so, I was 21, I still had to make it look good. But this is me just still, yes, I have cancer, I don't care, I'm still gonna enjoy my 21st birthday, and I had a drink. I did. So the more chemo started going, I started noticing I was, my hair was thinning. That was pretty much the worst symptom that I had initially. So I decided, pretty early on that I was not gonna let cancer control my life, but rather I was gonna control how cancer was going to play a part in mine. So my hair was thinning. I wasn't gonna let chemo take my hair. I was gonna take my own hair. So this was me in, I believe, October. So I was about 2 months into my treatment and shaved my head. My mom happened to be there with me. It was a very emotional but humbling time because I knew again, like I wasn't gonna let the chemotherapy take my hair out. It was gonna be me. So I thought it didn't look that bad either. So then I completed my first round of chemo. I had found my surgeon, who happened to be Dr. Duncan here, which he has a couple of cameos later on through this as well, just forewarning. So this was me. Post-op day 1, I was in the ICU overnight, just monitoring everything was going well. And then later on that afternoon, I was put in the Cadillac rooms. Really nice suite up there on that 5th floor. So this was me with all the gadget, the NG tube, the staples, everything went well through that post-surgery course. However, I did find out at that point that I had stage 3C, meaning that there was positive lymph node involvement, and that the chemotherapy I had done prior to surgery, which the intention was to shrink the tumor, didn't work. So everything that I had worked up until this point of having the actual surgery was basically, in my mind, a waste of time. So very quickly did I become very angry and scared all at the same time because yes, the stomach was removed from me. There were clear margins, which was great, but now there was that uncertainty. I know it's in my lymph nodes, how much further did it get from here? So, just wanted to throw this in there. On December 5th, 2010, this is my first cup of water that I had with my new pseudo tummy, and I still keep it with me every day. But then funny enough, that night, I don't know if you see the size of this meal. What? So, I managed to pick at everything very quickly, learned what the dumping syndrome was, but it was a continuous process. So, but very exciting to actually eat food again. So now this leaves me, I was discharged from the hospital, everything went great with the surgery, but now it was looking back on course, so what we thought was gonna work here is now not working. We also know that we have lymph node involvement. We don't know if there's actually distant metastases yet. So it was gonna be, I did not have the CDH1 gene mutation, nor did I have any BRCA or HER2 positive markers. So then the option of doing any sort of biotherapy at this point was taken out of the picture. So now let's do more chemo, but we're gonna do something totally different. So my oncologist actually reached out to a specialist at Georgetown University who was trialing this new thing with a set of patients there, where they were actually using chemotherapy regimens for colorectal cancer in lieu for these gastric cancer patients that weren't responding necessarily to the chemotherapy agents in the MAGIC trial. So that though kicked my ass, just off the bat. So once I finally got through all of that, I decided, I did everything that I was supposed to do. I did my chemo beforehand, I did my surgery in between, I put myself through hell with the chemotherapy afterwards. Idarubicin, I don't know if any of you guys have been on that, but idarubicin, I run to the can, is kind of like the humor with that. So just to give you an idea of what kind of awful symptoms I was having with that second round of chemo. So I decided though at that point, now that the chemotherapy was done, it was time for me to kind of reflect back on everything. I needed some time for myself. I decided that, if what I just put myself through wasn't gonna work for me, that nothing was. So I elected to get my port removed and kind of just rid my hands of it. I knew up until that point, I was living every day as I wanted to. I was a 21-year-old, I was going out having fun with my friends, I was misbehaving, but leaving my mark on the world nonetheless. So this is me at the top of, why can't I think of it? Dad, what's the name of it?
Diamond Head.
Diamond Head, yes. Some of you guys have been there then. But so this was me. I went on a 2-week sabbatical where I just kind of disconnected myself. I went by myself out to Hawaii, made this promise to myself, like I was gonna hike to the top of that all by myself and scream from the top of it. And I did. Scared the hell out of a lot of people because they're like, what is this girl doing up here screaming? But it was like the most just, like for me, it was that closure moment. Like I'm done. And now it's just time to move on. Whatever else comes from here will come, but I've made it. And something very interesting had happened while I was coming down off of the mountain. I know you guys have heard a lot earlier today about the CD1 mutation and how it's highly relevant in the Japanese and Korean countries. There was a girl who had overheard me talking with another woman who I basically rescued. She was having a really hard time hiking up by herself, so I was like her step partner, and we made it up together. And she was just telling me how she just had a gastric bypass, and I was like, oh, funny enough, I kind of just did too. And in talking with this lovely Japanese girl, her name is Jennifer, she had overheard, and she stopped me once we got to the bottom of the mountain, and she said, I just want you to know I just lost my mother, my grandmother, and my aunt to stomach cancer. And I had the genetic testing done, and I am CDH1 positive as well. And I will be going in the next couple of months to be getting a prophylactic complete gastrectomy. And then, she just wanted to talk to me about, what do you think about this? How, what were the complications? What were the hurdles? Do you think I should do it? And I just told her, I said, if I would have known when I was 18 that this would have happened to me, I would have had my stomach removed then. I wouldn't have had to put myself through the hell that I did with the chemotherapy and now the uncertainty. But instead of finding out, now you know that you have this tumor and you know that you have these lymph nodes that could be possibly circulating cancer around your body. Don't test that. If you have that knowledge, it is that power for you. And to go ahead and get that gastrectomy. And she did. She and I still keep in touch today. She's now doing research for stomach cancer, and I'm participating with her with the things with that. She's up at MIT. But it was just kind of, here I am on this sabbatical thing for myself, and I end up helping somebody along the way. And I thought, that's really great to empower others. And originally I was doing this physical therapy track, but by the time I left Hawaii, I decided I want to go into nursing. I had these amazing encounters along the way with the nurses. Not only I did fertility treatments to do egg preservation prior to starting chemo, so nurses from that experience to my chemo nurses, everybody was just phenomenal along the way, and I thought that is really what my true purpose and calling is really advocating for these people, and that I had the opportunity to do so. My husband is here, but I found out within 2 months, I met my husband, got accepted into nursing school, and made the decision to go ahead and do radiation therapy as well. I had given myself enough of a break between chemo, had followed up 3 months afterwards with my oncologist, and he was like, Stephanie, I know there's really not the data out there, but you're young enough, you have the stamina, I think it wouldn't hurt to go ahead and move forward with the radiation. And reluctantly, I was like, okay, fine, throw the kitchen sink at me, I'll take it. So all these things, in almost a positive light, were happening to me for once. And it was so overwhelming, but all the meanwhile rewarding. So then, this is Dr. Duncan and myself, as my nursing school graduation. So along the way, 2 years had passed, everything was looking great. My PET scans showed back negative every 6 months up until that point. And then the decision was made to then move to annual PET scans, which continued to be perfect. So I just thought it was really awesome. He actually came to my nursing graduation dinner. It really meant a lot to me. And even some of my oncology nurses from the outpatient infusion center made it. They were so excited and just so proud of me, and it really was that reassurance, this is my purpose. I went through cancer so that I can help others. And this is me, just a little tidbit. Last day of radiation, that's my tummy. My nice little scar, it's healed up quite nicely. Makes a six-pack look a lot better, I'll tell you. It's a nice little shadow. But all of my rad-onc nurses did little designs and stuff afterwards, so that was my little exciting piece. And this is me, right after finishing nursing school, and I had, I believe this was after my 3 years of my PET scans were clean. So now I got promoted to just doing annual ones, which was a super exciting day for me. Because of course I was worried, like, oh God, I'm doing all of this, like, injecting myself with all these crazy dyes, and then what are going to be the repercussions for that? So, the less amount that I had to go under, these glowy machine things, the better off I was, I thought. And on my wedding day, the message with this is don't stop believing, because that's what we were serenading to. And whichever path that you guys may be along, whether you're survivors or actively going through treatment, or if you're a caregiver for somebody, just know that you are serving a purpose in one way or another. That we have to make the best out of each and every day that we have, because none of us, regardless if we have cancer, if we are running marathons every day, it doesn't matter. Each day is a gift, and we need to be making the best out of it, especially when you have a glass of wine and a really good jam on, like some Journey. Yeah. So these are just my mantras, my personal mantras. My favorite one that I even share, so now I'm precepting new nurses and everything, and but what I always like to tell them is that, I'm not going to tell you that it's going to be easy, but I'm going to tell you it's going to be worth it. So even if your treatments don't work, even if all you have to do is surgery, all you have to do is get an endoscopy, if you're the caregiver, at the end of all of this, whether we make it out or we don't, it's all worth it, because you've still left a positive reflection upon yourself and onto everybody else around you. We're constantly inspiring people around us as cancer patients and their caregivers. And my dad told me, and I think from the get-go, this is really what got me through, that he told me, Steph, you have cancer, but don't let cancer have you. And that has just resonated with me ever since that moment. And that was my attitude through everything, is that it may kill me, odds are against me, but I'm gonna make the best of it. I'm gonna fight like hell, and if it doesn't work, well, at least I know that I tried, and that I hopefully inspired everybody else around me, and hopefully, that reaches out to you guys as well. And then, of course, got a fist pump on the way out, because that was it. This was my last day as a white, and now I'm a Smith. But this is just an amazing opportunity for me to be able to come and speak to you guys today and share a bit of my story. And hopefully I didn't ramble on and it made some sort of sense. But cancer's never easy, but the best we can do is just find the light at the end of the tunnel with it. And just know that as a caregiver or as somebody going through it, we really are making a positive impact. There's a lot of education coming out of it. We're learning even from our mistakes, and even being on the nursing side of it now, I find that I'm driven by what I do and the practices that I have, by the humbleness and love and appreciation that cancer patients do have. So if you guys have any questions, I'll be hanging around, but thank you all very much.